قد أفلح المؤمنون.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وصلى الله على محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين. اللهم صل على محمد وآله. Respected Muslim brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Today we'll be continuing our discussion of the biography of al-Imam al-Husayn, salamullahi alayh. Now, before we start, I would again highly advise you to watch the previous parts as well as to watch the biography of Imam al-Hasan, as during the biography of Imam al-Hasan we went over some of the shared fada'il of the Hasanayn, alayhim as-salam, and in doing so we went over events like the Mubahala, we went over other makarim of al-Hasanayn when they were children, and some of these were also mentioned in the biography of Sayyidah Fatima az-Zahra. But today we will be covering reports regarding the life of Aba Abdullah salamullahi alayhi during the imama of his father Ali. So that includes the khilafah of their Siddiq, of their Faruq, and of course of Uthman ibn Affan. And we will try to also go over the reports regarding him during the Khilafah, during the period where Imam Ali ruled over the Muslim world, inshallah. Now, with that being said, let us go ahead and get started. As for Imam al-Husayn during the Khilafah of Abu Bakr, I have not been able to locate any authentic reports regarding any of al-Husayn's activities during the period of Abu Bakr. And as we know, his reign was very short. It was 2 years and some odd months, I believe. Now, when it comes to his reign comes to his life during the reign of Umar ibn al-Khattab, there are a few interesting reports, and there's one that is one of my favorites, and I hope that this one, after we narrate it for you, many of you will narrate it, and many of you will help people know about this report. I do not know why this is not reported more often. It is one of the most amazing reports about Imam al-Husayn salamullahi alayhi, and it gives you a really strong indication as to what he was like and his personality. Correct? So, in the biography of al-Imam al-Hasan salamullahi alayhi, we went over a event where al-Imam al-Hasan salamullahi alayhi stood up and told Abu Bakr to get off his father's pulpit. And once again, we highly recommend you watch our bio of Imam al-Hasan if you did not catch this one. However, it is something that would happen whenever we would narrate this to some of the brothers and to some of the sisters. They would say, "Saif, I thought that was with al-Imam al-Husayn and Umar." And I say, yes, this also happened with al-Imam al-Husayn and Umar. Subhanallah. Imam al-Hasan did it with Abu Bakr, and Imam al-Husayn did it with Umar. And I would really love to hear an explanation from the Mukhalifeen as to why the Hasanayn were telling their Khulafat to get off of Rasulullah's mimbar, to get off of their father's mimbar. Correct? So, this report can be found in some of the oldest books of Islamic history, and one of them is Tarikh al-Madinah by Ibn Shabba al-Numayri. In Tarikh al-Madinah, he reports with two separate chains. He reports in Tarikh al-Madinah, and this book is very, very troublesome because there are multiple prints of it. But this is Kitab Akhbar al-Madinah, or sometimes called Tarikh al-Madinah by Ibn Shabba al-Numayri. It is a very, very old book. Extremely old. It is one of the oldest Islamic history books that we have. And this is volume 3, Juz' al-Thalith al-Mujallad al-Sadis, page 14 to 15. And we can see here that the Muhaqqiq said that the Isnad is Sahih. Correct? So the report says, and this report can also be found in Kitab Tabaqat ibn Sa'd, in volume 6, page 408. And although there is no tahqiq of that particular volume or that particular print of Tabaqat ibn Sa'd, al-Dhahabi said the report is authentic in Kitab Siyar A'lam al-Nubala, as did Ibn Hajar in Kitab al-Isaba fi Tamiz al-Sahaba. So it's in Siyar A'lam al-Nubala, volume 3, page 285, and in al-Isaba, it is volume 2, page 69. Correct? The report can also be found in Kitab Tarikh Baghdad by al-Khatib al-Baghdadi. I'm not going to put these on the screen for too long because at this point these are secondary sources, they're overkill. And in the Shi'i sources, it can be found in Amali Shaykhun al-Tusi rahmatullahi alayh in page 703, which is Majlis 40, hadith number 7. So now that we've presented the sources, let's see what happened here. It says that And in Ibn Shabba and Ibn Sa'ad, they report this on the authority of al-Husayn ibn Ali himself. They say, during the early days of the Khilafah of Umar, Imam al-Husayn entered al-Masjid al-Nabawi, where Umar was giving a speech on the mimbar of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa wasallam. So he stepped up the pulpit and he told him, "Come down from the pulpit of my father and go and sit on the pulpit of your father." And Umar was astounded at this statement and said, "My father did not have a pulpit." And so this report is very interesting because someone may say, because first of all, the fact that Imam al-Hasan did it before him, I'm detecting a pattern here. Like, subhanAllah, first Imam Ali says that Abu Bakr and Umar are sinful, treacherous liars and deceivers. Then he says that, Rasulullah died and it should have been me. But people gave bay'ah to Abu Bakr, then they gave bay'ah to Umar, then they gave bay'ah to Uthman, and now they're comparing me with Muawiyah. Then Imam al-Hasan tells Abu Bakr, "Get off my father's pulpit." Then Imam al-Husayn tells Umar, "Get off my father's pulpit." And then, of course, we know the issue with Fatima al-Zahra and Umar ibn al-Khattab. I'm detecting a pattern here. Now, the issue that some people may bring up, they say, wait a minute, al-Husayn salamullahi alayhi is only a child. He's just a child. He doesn't know what he's saying. He's like, get off my father's pulpit. So there are two things we would point out. Number one, in Tarikh al-Madinah, we see that Imam al-Husayn does not say it once. He says it twice. In Kitab Tarikh al-Madinah, in the first report, Imam al-Husayn salamullahi alayhi says, "Unzil an mimbar jaddi." Get off my grandfather's pulpit. Correct? And he says it twice. Umar says to him, "Ta'akhkhar ya ibn akhi." He's like, "Oh nephew, oh son of my brother, like give me some room, not now." So it says, "Wa-akhadha al-Husayn bi-rida'i Umar." So he took Umar's clothing in his hand, his rida', his sleeve, and he said, "Falam yazal يجذب ويقول," and he would not stop tugging on it and saying, "انزل عن منبر جدي وتردد عليه حتى قطع خطبته ونزل عن المنبر." And he would not stop doing this until he stopped his sermon and got off the pulpit, and then he led salat. When salat was over, Imam al-Husayn salamullahi alayhi, Umar sent for him. He wanted to speak with him. So he said to him, "Ya ibn akhi, man amaraka billadhi sana'at?" He's like, "Hussein, who told you to do that? Did your dad tell you to do that?" Because, he's just a kid. He doesn't know how to think for himself. According to our opponents, he's not a divinely appointed imam. So what does al-Husayn salamullahi alayhi say to him? He says to him, "Ma amarani bihi ahad." No one told me to do this. I did it of my own decision, my own accord. In the second report, in the first report, it says, "Inzul an mimbar jaddi." Get off of Rasulullah's pulpit. In the second report, which it goes back to al-Husayn himself, correct? He says to Umar, "Inzil an mimbar abi wadhhab ila mimbari abik." Get off my father's pulpit and go to your father's pulpit. So if someone wishes to say, "Oh, al-Husayn, he doesn't know what he's doing," no, al-Husayn was asked, "Who told you to do this?" I wanted to do it. It was my decision. What explanation do the Mukhalifin have for this? Why does no one bring up this report? Al-Husayn salamullahi alayhi, it's easy to say you like al-Husayn when he's just a baby, when he's just a child, when he's just a toddler. Correct? However, the problem is that Imam al-Husayn later grew up. Why is it that when al-Husayn grows up, we stop hearing about him from the Mukhalifin, who claim to love him so much? Another point that I would like to bring up, and this is another very dangerous report the Mukhalifin do not bring up, because it has multiple polemical uses. In Kitab al-Mu'jam al-Kabir by al-Tabarani, in volume 2, page 239, hadith number 2774, we read the following. He narrates with his chain back to Imam al-Baqir, or from Imam al-Sadiq, from his father, Imam al-Baqir, salamullahi alayh, that Imam al-Baqir narrated that Rasulullah took bay'ah from al-Hasan and al-Husayn and Abdullah ibn Abbas and Abdullah ibn Ja'far while they were young and had not yet reached puberty. And he, Imam al-Baqir, added, he did not take the pledge of allegiance from anyone except us. This report was authenticated by al-Haythami in Kitab Majma' al-Zawad. Kitab Majma' al-Zawaid, volume 6, page 33, hadith number 9872. However, he comments, he says, وَهُوَ mursal, because Imam al-Baqir did not live in the time of Rasulullah. SubhanAllah, it's very easy when the mukhalifeen, when they want to attack our corpus, they say, oh, the Shia, all their chains go back to their imams, they don't go all the way back to Rasulullah. Say, ahsant, what an excellent objection. Go object to Imam al-Baqir, because this is just how Imam al-Baqir narrated hadith in your books as well. If you believe Imam al-Baqir cannot be trusted to narrate events regarding his own grandparents, then quite simply you are a fool. If you think Imam al-Baqir has to waste his time every single time he wants to narrate something for us and repeat the names of his ancestors, correct? Then you are a fool. Quite simply. This report, what does this have to do with Imam al-Husayn? You see, if Rasulullah is taking bay'ah from al-Hassanayn when they were that young, what does that mean? Bay'ah, the pledge of allegiance, correct? Or the an oath of loyalty. You can't do bay'ah with someone who doesn't know what's going on. You can't do bay'ah with a child that doesn't understand how these matters work. The fact that Rasulullah is taking bay'ah from them shows that they can distinguish between right and wrong. That they know what's going on. They know how Khilafah works. They know how bay'ah works. So if al-Husayn knows how these things work, and he's telling Umar, get off of Rasulullah's pulpit, get off of Amir al-Mu'mineen's pulpit, what does that mean for the mukhalifeen? And we will conclude that this hadith with just one simple challenge. We claim to love al-Husayn, and our opponents among the mukhalifeen, they claim to love al-Husayn. Now, here's the question. Which of you is willing to tell Umar to get off the Prophet's pulpit? Me, alhamdulillah, I would do it without a second thought. What about you? Who claim to love the Ahlul Bayt of the Prophet? Sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam. طيب? Another report regarding Imam al-Husayn and Umar ibn al-Khattab can be found in Kitab Tabaqat ibn Sa'ad in volume 6, page 407. It says the following, and this is narrated from Imam al-Sadiq salamullah alayhi. He says that Umar made the stipend for al-Hasan and al-Husayn equal to the stipend of their father Ali. And this is something peculiar about the Khilafah of Umar. His system when it came to the Ata, when it came to the Baytul Mal, his system was to give the early Muslims more money than the later ones. So if you were at Badr, you got paid more than everybody else. So al-Hasan and al-Husayn were not at Badr, but their stipend was equal to their father Amir al-Mu'mineen. Salamullah alayhi. It is also reported by Ibn Sa'd, and I believe this is on the same page, he says that when Umar recorded the Diwan, which is the register for the Baytul Mal, and imposed the stipend, he included al-Hasan wal-Husayn in the share of their father due to their close relationship with Rasulullah. So he assigned 5,000 to each of them. As for Imam al-Husayn salamullah alayhi, I also want to go over something really quickly. This is important, and I know some of you don't like these tangents that I go on, but we have to do these analysis, because some people, alhamdulillah, they read the report, they memorize the report, we have to understand the report, and we have to know how to respond to objections to these sorts of reports. So an objection someone may bring up, they say, wow, Umar is giving al-Hasan wal-Husayn so much money. That means he must love them. That means they must love one another. To this we reply very simply, accepting money from a tyrant is halal. And we went over this during the biography, I believe, of Imam al-Hasan al-Mujtaba, where he would accept large stipends from Muawiyah. Likewise, inshallah, I don't have these scans on me, but when we do the biography of Imam al-Sadiq, salamullah alayhi, this is reported, I believe, in Kitab Uyun al-Akhbar or in Kitab al-Uqd al-Farid by Ibn Abid Rabbah, as well as other sources, that Imam al-Sadiq, salamullah alayhi, was summoned to the court of al-Mansur, and al-Mansur wanted to kill him. Al-Mansur had told al-Fadl ibn Rabi', I'm going to kill him this time. When Imam al-Sadiq came in, al-Mansur's attitude completely changed due to a dua that Imam al-Sadiq had recited before meeting him, and the meeting ended with al-Mansur giving Imam al-Sadiq a lot of money. Does this mean that Imam al-Sadiq and al-Mansur, they liked one another? On the contrary, we say this is politics. Umar would love to say, look at how much I love Bani Hashim, look how I respect the Prophet's grandchildren. Correct? Now, in any case, we will now move on to the role of al-Husayn during the Khilafah of Uthman. And there are some very interesting reports here. One of them that we will go over is from al-Kaf al-Sharif. This is Kitab al-Kaf al-Sharif in volume 8, in Hadith number 251. And this is a very long report. And this is mostly related to the biography of Sayyiduna Abi Dharr al-Ghafari, radwanullahi ta'ala alayhi. And so this report is also very interesting because it is corroborated from the sources of the Mukhalifin. In the sources of the Mukhalifin, it can be found in Kitab Sharh Nahj al-Balagha, and Ibn Abi al-Hadid records a sanad for it from the books of the Mukhalifin. It is in the now lost book of al-Jawhari, in Kitab al-Saqifa. In the book of al-Jawhari, he narrates this story with the following chain. So the first one is, of course, al-Jawhari, who is a reliable scholar for them. He transmits Kitab Tarikh al-Madinah by Ibn Shabbah. In his book Kitab al-Saqifa, he narrates this from Abdul Razzaq, from his father Hammam, from Ikrimah, from Ibn Abbas. This is a good chain by the standards of the Mukhalifin. It says that when Abu Dharr was exiled to Al-Rabada by Uthman ibn Affan, and this is an event that is very sad, it is very tragic. Inshallah, when we go over the biography of Abu Dharr, we will cover it in more detail. Uthman forbade anyone from saying farewell to Abu Dharr. No one can accompany Abu Dharr, no one can bid him farewell. However, Imam Ali alayhi salam defied this order. He went out with al-Hasan and al-Husayn and his brother Aqil ibn Abi Talib and his cousin Abdullah ibn his nephew, the cousin of Abu Abdullah, Abdullah ibn Ja'far, and Ammar ibn Yasir, radwanullahi ta'ala alayhi. They all went out to say farewell to Abu Dharr. And so all of them said something to Abu Dharr. All of them said something, and this is very, very powerful. The words of Amir al-Muminoon here are very, very powerful. The words of Imam al-Hasan salamullah alayhi, we went over them in his biography, are very, very powerful. The words of Imam al-Husayn salamullah alayhi, the words of Aqil, the words of Ammar, each of them we will go over it in their respective bios. However, I want to focus on what Imam al-Husayn said to Abu Dharr. He said to him, "O uncle," and this is a fadila for Sayyidina Abu Dharr, that Imam al-Husayn calls him my uncle. He says, Allah blessed and high, Allah Jalla wa Ala, has the power to change what you see, and every day He is in a state of glory. The people have denied you their world, and you have denied them your religion. So what is your need for what they have denied you? And they are in the greatest of need for what you have denied them. So it is for you to observe patience, for goodness is in patience, and patience is from generosity. And leave anxiety, for anxiety provides no refuge. And these words of Imam al-Husayn salamullah alayhi, wallah, they break the heart for a few reasons. One, because they themselves are powerful. No one can deny the power and the truthfulness of what Imam al-Husayn salamullah alayhi is saying to Abu Dharr. But you know what else breaks my heart? Is Abu Dharr radwanullahi ta'ala alayhi, he died alone in the Rabada desert. Correct? He starved to death in the Rabada desert. And then shortly after he died, a group of mu'mineen came, and among them was Sayyidina Malik al-Ashtar, and they buried him and they prayed janazah over him. Correct? And this is the fulfillment of what Rasulullah said to Abu Dharr, is that Abu Dharr will, he was alone as a mu'min, and then he will die alone as a mu'min. Correct? And he will be raised alone. However, what makes Imam al-Husayn's word here so heartbreaking is that look at the parallel between him and Abu Dharr. Abu Dharr, lost his life because he stood up for the haqq. He stood up to the tyrant of his time. The same thing happens with Imam al-Husayn many, many years later. Except I would say that al-Husayn salamullah alayhi was more oppressed than Abu Dharr for a very simple reason. Abu Dharr, when it comes to Abu Dharr, we say he died alone. He had a few of his family members with him, correct? But the one who is surrounded by his enemies is more lonely than the one surrounded by his family. Al-Husayn salamullah alayhi died with hundreds of his enemies, thousands of them, all of them wanting his life to come to an end. And so this advice that he gives Abu Dharr, we see that Al-Husayn himself applied it. The people denied Al-Husayn their world, and yet he denied them their religion. That's power. That's why Al-Husayn salamullah alayhi is so important to us, is that ability to deny the zalimeen your religion, even when they deny you their world, is power. Correct? And that power comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Lastly, we have a report, and this is reported by al-Baladhuri in his book Kitab Ansab al-Ashraf in two different places, in volume 6, page 197, as well as page 216. He reports the following. He says here that when Uthman was being besieged, Ali had sent his son al-Husayn to meet with Uthman. When Uthman asked al-Husayn if he thought he would be able to defend himself against the rebels, al-Husayn replied in the negative and Uthman sent him away. Uthman's cousin Marwan ibn al-Hakam is reported to have said to al-Imam al-Husayn, "Leave us, your father incites the people against us, and you are here with us." And as we know, Uthman met his bitter end not too long after that. Now let us go over some of the reports of al-Imam al-Husayn during the life of his father Ali ibn Abi Talib. This report is very, very important, and I went over it in the bio of Imam al-Hasan. However, I only went over the part related to al-Imam al-Hasan himself. Here, we're going to go over the part related to al-Imam al-Husayn. This report can be found in al-Ikhtisas, which I don't want to get into the debate regarding who the author of al-Ikhtisas is. I believe Agha Buzurg Tahrani, rahmatullahi alayhi, he had the best opinion. He believes that this book was edited by Shaykh al-Mufid and that he approved of it. And it is also reported in Kitab al-Tawheed by Shaykhuna. This is Kitab al-Tawheed by Shaykh al-Saduq, rahmatullahi alayhi, and is also in Kitab al-Amali by Shaykhuna al-Saduq. Kitab al-Amali, Majlis 55, Hadith number 1. This report is really cool. I love this report. This report says the following. It is reported with their chains back to Al-Asbagh ibn Nubata, who is a companion of Amir al-Mu'mineen salamullahi alayhi, and one of his disciples. And many of you, if you've seen our video regarding the martyrdom of Amir al-Mu'mineen, you know Al-Asbagh was one of the last people to speak with him before he died. So he says that after Imam al-Hasan gave a sermon in which he praised Amir al-Mu'mineen salamullahi alayhi and narrated a hadith of his merit. Once again, go back to our video on Imam al-Hasan if you want to know more about that. Imam Ali alayhi salam then said to al-Husayn alayhi salam, "O my son, stand and climb the pulpit and speak so that Quraysh are not ignorant of you after me, lest they say al-Husayn ibn Ali has no insight in anything, and so that your words may follow your brothers." So after Imam al-Hasan stood up and mentioned the fada'il of his father, now it was Imam al-Husayn's turn. So al-Husayn alayhi salam climbed up on the minbar and he praised Allah and commended him, and he praised the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his family briefly, and then he said, "O people, I heard Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam say, surely Ali is the city of guidance. Whoever enters it is saved, and whoever turns away from it is destroyed." And so, when al-Husayn got down from the minbar, Amir al-Mu'mineen leapt towards him, embraced him, and held him to his chest. And then he said, "O people, bear witness that these two are the younglings of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who he entrusted to me, and I am entrusting them to you. O people, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam will question you regarding them." And this is something very, very interesting, because when it comes to al-Hasanayn, most people, and this is something of a joke here in the West, do you know who my father is? Excuse me, do you know who my father is? But Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen salamullahi alayhi has this very unique fadila that not a lot of people notice. Amir al-Mu'mineen was proud of his sons. He says, "Alhamdulillah for giving me these two sons like al-Hasan and al-Husayn, the two grandsons of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, the two Sayyids." Correct? And he warns the ummah. He says, Rasulullah will question you regarding these two. Correct? As for his role during the Battle of Jamal, this is mentioned by Shaykhun al-Mufid in his extremely underrated Kitab al-Jamal. And I would highly recommend, if you can get your hands on a copy of Kitab al-Jamal, I believe it is available in English as well. Please, please, please read Kitab al-Jamal. It is an amazing book. In Kitab al-Jamal, we read the following. On page 348, we read that during the battle, al-Husayn ibn Ali salamullahi alayhi was placed in the left wing of his father's army. Regarding the Battle of Siffin, Shaykhuna Nasr ibn Muzahim, which again, very, very underrated book, Kitab Waqat Siffin, one of our most important books, very neglected, but very, very important. In Kitab Waqat Safin, Nasr ibn Muzahim reports that in the build-up to the Battle of Safin, al-Husayn salamullahi alayh once again delivered a sermon encouraging the people to rise up for jihad. He ascended the pulpit of Kufa, and after praising Allah and glorifying Him in a manner befitting His Majesty, he said, O people of Kufa, you are the beloved, the generous, the emblem without the cloak. You have excelled in reviving what was concealed among you, in relieving what troubled you, and in fostering unity among you. Indeed, war is an evil path, and its taste is dreadful, and it is a cup circulating among you alive. Whoever takes it, it overwhelms him. Whoever prepares for it, it returns prepared for him, and he does not feel its affliction when it arrives, for he is its companion. But whoever hastens to it before its time miscalculates its opportunity and rushes into it prematurely, he is a fool, harming neither his people nor himself, but causing his own destruction. We ask Allah with His assistance to support you with His kindness. So Imam al-Husayn, salamullah alayhi, the sermon is extremely powerful. It could only come from someone like Abu Abdullah. He is warning that when you go to war, you have to be ready. But when the time for war comes, do not hesitate. Another report regarding Imam al-Husayn salamullah alayhi during this time period, it comes from Al-Kafi in volume 5. Kafi Sharif, volume 5, book 1, chapter 12, hadith number 2. It is reported by Shaykh al-Kulayni matullahi alayhi with his chain to Imam al-Sadiq salamullah alayhi, that a man challenged a certain person from Bani Hashim to a duel, and he refused. So Amir al-Mu'mineen salamullah alayhi said to him, what has made you refuse? And I want to comment here, I believe this was during the Battle of Safin. I would infer, based on the context, that this is during the Battle of Safin, which is why we included it here. So one of the Hashemites was challenged to a duel, but he refused. So Amir al-Mu'mineen asked him, why did you refuse? So he replied, that man is an Arab knight, and I feared that he may defeat me. So Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam said to him, he has transgressed against you. Were you to fight him, you would have defeated him. If a mountain transgresses against a mountain, the transgressor is crushed. Imam al-Sadiq then continued, al-Husayn alayhi salam challenged a man to a duel, and Amir al-Mu'mineen noticed it and said, if you do such a thing again, I will reprimand you. If you are challenged and you refuse to fight, I will also reprimand you. Do you not know that he is a transgressor? So what does this report mean? This report is very interesting because if we look at the chapter, this is about challenging the enemy to a duel, correct? Throwing down the gauntlet, we would say. Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen salamullah alayhi is telling first his relative, the Hashemite, and then to Imam al-Husayn. He's saying, if someone challenges you, crush him. If someone transgresses against you, respond, correct? If a mountain transgresses against a mountain, the transgressor would be crushed. This is the mindset. Inshallah, we need to do a lecture on the ahadith regarding war from Imam Ali, because he has some fascinating quotes regarding battle and regarding war, correct? But then Imam al-Husayn salamullah alayhi, we see he challenged someone to a duel. Imam Ali told Imam al-Husayn, don't do that again. You don't challenge them. If they challenge you, you accept the challenge, but you do not initiate the hostilities, correct? If they initiate and you don't respond, I will reprimand you. I will be upset with you. Now, regarding Imam al-Husayn salamullah alayhi and his role in the Battle of Nahrawan, there are not too many reports about Imam al-Husayn and his brother at Nahrawan. However, there is this important one from Kitab al-Isti'ab by Ibn Abd al-Barr. And we went over it in the bio of Imam al-Hasan on page 426. He reports that al-Husayn alayhi salam participated in the Battle of Nahrawan alongside his father and many of his Hashemite relatives. At the end of Imam Ali's Khilafah, when Imam Ali salamullah alayhi, shortly before he was assassinated, Imam al-Husayn had been sent on a mission to the city of Madan, which, as we know, at that time was being governed by the uncle of al-Mukhtar ibn Abi Ubaid al-Thaqafi. So while in Madan, al-Husayn was mustering soldiers for his father's upcoming campaign against Muawiyah. And we know that this campaign never came to be because Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen salamullah alayhi was struck in Masjid al-Kufa and he died a few days later. Correct? So Imam al-Husayn was in Madan when he received an urgent letter from his brother al-Hasan. Because remember, Imam Ali and al-Hasan and Muhammad al-Hanafiya were in Kufa. Imam al-Husayn was in Madan. So when Amir al-Mu'mineen was struck, al-Hasan sent a letter to his brother. Correct? This report is found in Al-Kafi, Volume 3, Book 3, Chapter 81, Hadith number 3. It is reported that al-Husayn salamullahi alayhi, upon reading the letter and finding out that his father was struck, he said the following: "How intense and great is this sorrow! Even though Rasulullah has said that if you experience grief and sorrow, remind yourself of your sorrow and your grief about me. It is very true that no sorrow and grief is more intense and greater than the sorrow and grief for him. He has certainly spoken the truth." So when a musibah befell Abu Abdullah salamullahi alayhi, he's learned that his father has been struck, this was his reaction. He says, this is a great musibah, but we have already suffered a great musibah in Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, in losing Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Now, with that being said, I believe we will bring this session to a close, as in we know that shortly afterwards Amir al-Muminoon alayhi salam was martyred, he passed away and he was buried, and then the Khilafah of Imam al-Hasan al-Mujtaba salamullah alayhi, the Imamah of Imam al-Hasan began. Inshallah, in our next session, the next part, we will go over the reports of Imam al-Husayn salamullah alayhi alongside his brother al-Imam al-Hasan al-Mujtaba in Iraq and in Medina. With that being said, we will end with Surah al-Fatiha. تسبقها الصلاة على محمد وآل محمد.